thanks everyone for coming again after lunch and not just eating and running, so we appreciate that. So I had started working with some of the folks here, Mike Lynch and Brent Stark. If you folks don't know them, Brent's the head of our special education services here at the ESD, and Mike is our safety guy here. He's been handling a lot of the safety grants for us. And for some background, when the terrorist fires happened, and then when the Arando bus accident happened, I had gotten called in for a lot of questions on like the aftermath of what, dealing with what happened after. It wasn't so much even just the when it happened, but what do you do afterward? And so I started working with Mike and Brent on the concept of a crisis response cooperative. And so we were, just so everybody knows, we're still in the works on it. We're kind of still working out what we want the structure to look like. But as we were going through this, someone said, hey, have you guys ever had the RapidResponder guys come in and do a training? And I'm like, no, I've never even heard of it. And I thought it was just because I've only been here a year and a half. So I went on here and I saw this, and I thought this was the coolest thing. And then I brought it to a previous business manager forum, and you all thought it looked like a pretty cool thing. So I was fortunate enough to reach out, and these folks said, I'll have them introduce themselves. And then maybe if you, I'll just kind of, maybe we'll run through the room before they do and just let everybody know where everybody's from so that they can have a sense of it. And then I'll have them introduce themselves and run with it. So Sally, why don't we just start with you and go ahead and introduce yourself, and then let them know, if you're with the ESD, let them know which school districts you work with directly.
I'm Sally Ryan. I'm from the ESD and also Laurel.
Scott Haberly, I work for Omac School District.
Shay Shaw, Business Manager, Oroville School District.
Debbie Sharp, Business Manager, Bridgeport.
Jeanette Baumgartner, I work at the ESD. I work with Brewster, Lopez Island, and now Salt Lake School Districts.
Lopez Island, did you say?
Yes.
That's not near here.
Yeah.
That's our one outlier.
Islands
Debbie the whole state.
Debbie Cook, and I work for the ESD, and I have Ephrata School District and Grand Coulee Dam School District.
I'm Tricia Schock. I work for the ESD, and I work with Tabasco School District and Salt Lake School District.
Bobby Catone, Tabasco School District. I'm the Assistant Business Manager.
Brenda Sorensen, Arando School District.
Carol Fisker, Lake Parkway. Stephanie Lowry, Moses Lake School District.
Kim Pease, Business Manager, Mansfield.
Melody Allen, Business Manager for Terrace.
Carly Bartlett, NTAD School District.
Brent Stark, NCESD 171.
Mike Lynch, or Central ESD, and I'll apologize, we have to get up at about 1:10 for another meeting having to do with the co-op. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed one.
Nicole Courtney, budget assistant at the ESD, and I'm an assistant on Lopez, Ephrata, and Brewster School District.
Okay, you got to explain this Lopez thing to me. I know where Lopez Island is. How do you guys get involved with that?
They actually requested our help with their business management services, and so their ESD in their region didn't provide that direct service. So, and we have other services in our region that come out of some of the other ESDs. So it's kind of we try to work together when we can. So, and not only am I the fiscal officer here, but I'm also the fiscal officer of the Menhaw Valley School District too. So yeah. Thanks, guys.
Okay, Bob, if you wouldn't mind going next.
Yeah, my name is Bob Carter. Recently retired from the Clark County Sheriff's Office after 32 years. My background is in police tactical, law enforcement for 32 years, SWAT team leader, ICS, critical incident mapping, which is part of what RapidResponder is all about.
Keith.
Keith Merritt, retired middle school principal, 35 years of trying to figure out how 12 and 13-year-old kids think.
That don't fit right in here.
Yeah, got my start. Glenn Johnson, the superintendent of Cashmere, was one of my students. His dad was the superintendent and hired me back in 1974. So, anyway, been working with RapidResponder since 2007. Around the country, actually, with school districts, police, and fire. Letting them know, like what was said earlier, that what a good deal it is.
I'm Pat Sajak. Keith is going to be my Vanna today. Okay, my name is Bruce Cannon. Bob and Keith and I work for the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs. WASPIC is the acronym. And you probably heard us introduced as being RapidResponder. RapidResponder is the name of the software that we're going to talk about. It's actually provided by a private company, but they do that under contract to WASPIC. And the only reason I like to explain this is that WASPIC is kind of an unusual organization. We are considered a combination of units of local government, and that's important because we can get money from the legislature directly. So basically what we're doing here is a statewide program funded by your tax dollars. Statewide, it's been around since 2003, and in some ways even before that. WASPIC's been involved in it since 2003. Every public school in the state is involved in the system at one level or another, and that's kind of what we're going to get some flavor of today as we talk to some of your districts that we may not have been to in quite a while. The program came into being because of Columbine. So its original reason for existence was active shooter, better response to shooting incidents. So that's where it started, and it is still about that. That is still one of its primary reasons for existence, is to be better prepared for that sort of worst case scenario. But over time it has grown to be valuable for loss control, for some of the post things that Dave was talking about, for lesser emergencies, sprinkler heads getting knocked off, just about anything. We have lots of stories to tell. We'll try not to bore you with most of them. But anyway, it has become an all hazards kind of tool. So we think it has value for all of those things and maybe some things we haven't thought about. What you're looking at is an internet-based access to it. It's called the Emergency Response Interface. You can get to it by going to prod.rapidresponder.com. Yesterday, I set most of you up with the username and password that you should have received in an email from admin@rapidresponder.com. They get caught in spam filters sometime. So could I get a flavor of how many people even received the email? Okay. No, only about half.
Mine got caught in the spam filter, so the ESD probably got lost in spam.
Okay. So everybody from nobody from an ESD raised their hand? So that could be a common problem. You did get one.
I get.
Okay. All right, but it sounds like the rest of the ESDs got caught, potentially. Okay. If you got one, it's for real, you can have it. If you were an ESD person, I gave you access to 4 counties, I think the obvious ones, and view only. If you're from a school district, I gave you administrative rights to your school district, and obviously you can view also with the administrative rights. So this will make more sense as I go along, but it sounds like it won't be valuable at this moment for you to log in and try to follow along. What we'll try to do is put up on the screen examples from a variety of school districts so you get a flavor of what it looks like. Don't be shy. If I push a button or Keith pushes a button that you don't know how we got there, please raise your hand. We have plenty of time to get through this and talk to you. Okay, so what you're looking at is the whole state. Access is compartmentalized, so schools get to see their own districts and or their own schools. ESDs get to see all the schools in their ESD. First responders, we default by county. So for example, go ahead and widen one of those circles. I don't care which one, probably up there somewhere. Yeah, you picked a good one. So here's Cooley. These little blue circles are a couple of small schools. So go ahead and click on Elmira, Cooley, Heartland. Okay, Elmira School is there. I drove past there this morning. So just to give you an idea. So Elmira, if I remember right, is in Grant County? Lincoln County? Lincoln. Okay, so everybody in Lincoln County has access to that school, including the sheriff's office and fire departments and that sort of thing. State Patrol has access to that school. But not the folks in the next county over, and maybe they should have. In Chelan, Douglas, we have already widened it out so that everybody, all the first responders in Chelan County can see Douglas, and all the first responders in Douglas can see Chelan. This would be a place that we could give access across the way. But the point of my story is that the original intent of this thing is that things bad enough happen at schools, the mutual aid folks would be able to access the information. So the big shooting in Marysville, Pilchuck High School, the people who logged in were not the Marysville PD. They were a little bit busy, but their neighbors logged in. the dispatch agency logged in, the Monroe Fire Department logged in, so their neighbors were people that got immediate value out of the program when that shooting happened. Okay, let's not use Elmira, Keith. Let's use a Moses Lake School. Is there one in the Moses Lake School District that's got multiple buildings?
Oh, multiple, wait.
Like more than one building on the campus?
Chief Joe?
Yeah, Chief, I mean, we've got portables.
I mean, Chief.
That would be a good enough, yeah.
Chief Mo has a separate gym.
Okay, so he's just typing in part of the thing, and this is my access, so I have access to the whole state, and there are some first responders who have that as well. But okay, go ahead and click on Chief Moses. Okay, so every site can be accessed the way that Keith just got to that one. The reason I wanted to do a multiple building one was to demonstrate this tree over here. So the information is organized according to this tree. So when this yellow bar is up here, that means the next button he pushes is going to have to do with the whole site. And if he goes down to a building, yeah, go ahead. Then see how these buttons are going to change. Now the information is just about that building. Now if he goes down to the floor level, the information is going to be just about that floor of that building. So there, for example, is a floor plan. Here's some interior pictures would be at the floor level. So if you get to use this program, if you have a reason to use this program to access information, this is the most important piece of understanding where things are, is that tree structure. So we'll give you some examples, but I wanted to very quickly show you that tree structure. That is critical to finding information. The heart and soul of the system is this tactical plan, and Keith is speaking on tactical. So this is for active shooter. Remember I said that was what this was about in the beginning. So what happened to Chief Moses? Go ahead and click on the picture. I just want to see if there happens to be a date on there. There sometimes is. So back in 2004, my goodness.
2009.
Okay. Oh yeah, the image is from 2009, but they actually sat down in 2004. So what happened in 2004 is that somebody from the Moses Lake Police Department, someone from the fire department, probably Moses Lake has its own fire department, I think, and someone from the school district sat down and pre-planned a response to an active shooting incident, and they put these icons on, and it was done in a customized way. So they said, this is how many resources we have if this actually happened at our school. So when we go to Elmira and some other places today, you'll see that these look very different at each school, and that's because the resources are very different and responses are very different. What happened in 2009, I think, is that they put a newer picture underneath and slipped those icons onto a newer picture. But the meeting actually happened back in 2004, and it may or may not need to be revisited. Okay, go ahead and close that, Vanna. Let me buy a vowel. Go ahead and click tactical again. So the information here, like I said, is this is the English version of what you just saw the picture of, and then the rest of it is under the staging tab. Now we get into some of the things, those first things were mostly what first responders were doing, but now we get into some things that the school is doing. So they would need to know where the incident command post was so that they could send somebody there. They might want to know where the bus, they do want to know where the bus staging is, family reunification. All those things were pre-decided in this meeting back in 2004. May or may not reflect the reality today, and that's partly why we have meetings like this and why we need to look at it from time to time. But anyway, so that's the tactical plan and how it gets into the system. Any questions about it?
One of the questions that schools bring up, great question, is we're going to be too busy to use this during rapid responder. That is so true. Responders are going to be too busy also. The coordination or the collaboration in this is what reality says is schools are going to do the work keeping all this stuff up to date. Dispatchers and command posts, they're the ones that are going to have time to look at this and then be giving guys like Bob and the SWAT team specific directions of this is where the staging area is, This is where the tactical team's going to line up, and so on. So it's like schools have the responsibility to avoid that garbage in, garbage out syndrome during an emergency by taking care of it and making sure that those things are up to date.
Absolutely. So basically, this is a repository for plans. I agree with Keith 100%. And even in Marysville Pilchuck, when they needed most of this plan, they didn't turn the computer on and access it. They may or may not have had a printed version that they looked at. I talked to an incident commander who got there about a half an hour after, so he was in charge about a half an hour into the incident, and I asked him why he didn't use RapidResponder. He said, by the time I got there, I was in the school office. That's where the incident command post was the school office. So I didn't need to go get the floor plans out of RapidResponder. I just turned to the secretary sitting there at the desk, and she printed off the floor plans for me. But this guy that I'm talking about knew they were in RapidResponder, and if he didn't have that access, he would have gotten them out of there. And we have had lots of real incidents where people have logged into RapidResponder, got a floor plan, printed them out, and handed them to people who needed them in an instant. Okay. Just go down to the floor level. We're not going to do a full training. I'm sorry. Yeah, floor is fine. So I just wanted to point out that the floor plans are in there. They're as good as what the school gives us. So if they're not, if you look at your school and find that it's not a good one in there, it's very easy for us to upload a new floor plan. And Keith clicked on a new feature that's really a lot of schools are liking. So basically you can annotate a floor plan. So this plan was already in the system, and he's grabbing icons and dragging them on there. We'll use Keith's wife as a principal in the Longview School District. We'll use her example. She used this to mark the evacuation areas. So the first grade lines up here, the second graders line up here, and the third graders line up here. She used this feature to build a evacuation plan in RapidResponder. Pretty much on the fly, 15-20 minutes probably, she created a plan. So again, that's just a tool. We don't have time to train you for every little detail, but that's one of the nice advanced tools that's in the system.
So just Bruce, just real quick, you keep saying we don't have the time obviously right now.
Well, we're going to do as much as we can.
No, yeah. But if they did want a training, is that something they call you and get offered
absolutely.
for free?
There actually is one scheduled for Quincy. Thank you, Mike.
March 16th.
Yeah, March 16th. There's a full training in Quincy. It's at the high school, if I remember right.
It's at the transportation.
Right. Thank you.
Right off that.
Okay, and are we doing 2 sessions that day?
I think we are. I think we're doing 9 to 4.
Well, I'll show you where to find it on the WASPIC website, how you can register for it. Well, let's just do it right now so I don't forget. I've got the WASPIC website open on one of those, either Explorer or Chrome on a tab. So it's www.waspic.org. I guess you don't even need the www. WASPC. Yeah, that easy alert is probably where.
This one.
That second one is probably it, Keith.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail it.
No, I appreciate it actually. I absolutely intended to do this. No, Keith, one to the left. There you go. Okay, this is easy alert that we're going to talk about a little bit, but go ahead and click this programs, projects, and services up. You can't quite see. Down to critical incident planning and mapping. And try a little farther down. Go to additional information. This has got to be fixed.
Over on the right, there's a training.
Yeah, that's not it though. I'm sorry. That's how sheriffs and police chiefs get training. I'm just going to do it, Keith.
Oh, good. The other thing we should tell you, I think the question is, do we make house calls? The answer is yes.
Okay.
No cost, because everything's taken care of. And it's kind of a full portfolio of things that schools need when it comes to preparation, response, recovery. Everything from the planning and the support for this. So we train school members, custodial folks, transportation people. But then also the key thing, and this is my educator hat coming out, a good lesson in class is not just good information to kids. They have to have a way to apply it to the real world. So a growing movement around the state with schools is we come in and we get RapidResponder up to date, And then they ask us usually to help facilitate a scenario-based simulation tabletop exercise that uses RapidResponder, but it brings in police, fire, and school people to deal with a scenario. Custody issues, hostage, fire, hazmat, those kinds of things. So those are the kinds of things that I think I didn't mean to jump ship on you, but those are the kinds of things that we do around the state, corner to corner, helping not only ESDs but individual school districts. I mean, I think I listened to different school districts. We've been to Omak, and we've been to Okanagan, and we've been to Warden and Moses Lake, and we've been a lot of places that just in this work counts.
Okay, so you saw I had to kind of drill down to get this, so all else fails, call me. I'm happy to point you to this again. But it is at the Quincy District Transportation Building, March 16th, 9:30 to noon. And it's in 3 parts. So basic navigation, that's basically what we've been doing here so far, how to find things in the system. Easy Alert, we're going to show you, is a new feature that a lot of school districts are liking. It's sort of a software panic button communication tool. And then the last hour is administration. That's how to make changes in the system, so how to update users and update contacts and make changes in the system, new portable, that sort of thing, all that happens. So it's a 2.5-hour session. You can sign up for all or part of it. And I'm sure there's space available. If we happen to get overwhelmed, we'll just schedule another one and come back. And what Keith was saying, we will come to you. We have done regional training in Okanagan County and Grant County.
Grant County.
It's been a little while for some of them.
Yeah. Warden and
Warden is one of our pilots for Easy Alert. Yeah. So there's no place too small. We understand the state is made up of a variety of sizes, and we will come to you. Another option is GoToMeeting training. One or more of us will sit down at one end on a computer, and one or more of you can be at your computer at your desk, and we can just do the full training that way. And last but not least, there's videos that you can watch anywhere from how to enter a new user, how to enter a drill, all the way up to the full training. We've taped some of those GoToMeetings, and you can watch some of those. So I'll show you how to find that also. But there's lots of ways to get help. And I guess I'll add one more thing. If we do come to you, we also like to invite the first responders. So the school sponsors it, you're in a computer lab preferably, but then we invite the police and fire folks to come train with you. And that's just a nice way to get them in the buildings and get some of the collaboration going. Okay, thank you. Like I said, please interrupt for other things. Okay, go back to the front end.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
You brought up the annotation feature or whatever. Is that, if we pull that up and we start messing with that, is that something that we can see, or is that for?
As soon as it's saved, everybody that has access to that site can see it.
Okay.
So
it's web-based. It's live. As soon as you make a change and save it, it's in the system.
Yeah.
So it's just
sort of like when I make my move with Words with Friends, I'm dragging my letters onto the screen. They don't see that, but as soon as I make my move, then it's accessible to everybody that has access to the site. And you can do multiple ones. There are 3 kinds of images that can be annotated: site plans, tactical plans, and floor plans. Only the first responders, actually only the law enforcement first responders can do the tactical, but school people can do either of the other 2. So you could plan an event, or you could, like I said, you could locate your fire extinguishers or your evacuation areas, that sort of thing can be used for. Okay. All right, Keith, I wanted to do, so go all the way up to the site level. I wanted explosive threats and chemical release. What I like about these tools is that they give you real-time information that can help you make better decisions. So even if you don't do anything else with RapidResponder, these are 2 tools that you can use. So for example, if you had a bomb threat at Chief Moses Middle School, near Chief Moses Middle School, well, normally people think bomb threat, evacuate, right? Isn't that what you think about most of the time? If there's a bomb threat, you're evacuating. This would give you a tool to maybe make a better decision. So Keith is grabbing this icon up here, the explosive threat icon, and he dragged it down. When he let go, he has one choice to make, And that's how big is the threat. So picture a realistic threat. You know, a kid or somebody calls up on the phone and says, you know, there's a bomb, there's a pipe bomb in your playground, or you know, something real. Or somebody comes in and says, there's a suspicious looking backpack out there on the out there in the field somewhere. I think it's got wires sticking out of it. I think it might be a bomb. So think something like that. So Keith chose a 20-pound suicide vest, sort of like my scenario. And now he's clicking draw. Just that quickly, he's got a scenario. The red circle is the get the heck out circle. That's the explosion itself. So if that happened to be on the school, this is the school down here, then you would evacuate. But if you're in the yellow circle, that's basically the shrapnel. So that is the outdoor evacuation area. So you would get kids in from the playground, potentially put them in the building, undercover, away from the windows, and you'd shelter. Much safer than putting people out into this problem. You can have multiple bombs. You can drag more than one thing down there.
And share how you practice with the Boston Marathon event.
I literally zoomed out to Boston and modeled the 2 kettle bombs that happened for the Boston Marathon bombing, and this was detailed enough that you could literally see where people were impacted and where the buildings blocked, where the shrapnel basically went up and down the long, narrow streets. It's very accurate, it's very authoritative, so you could do this. We have had one real incident where this was used in the Evergreen School District in Vancouver, where they did literally have 2 packages. The bomb team came and blew up packages and that sort of thing. But probably the more likely thing that you're going to use it for is practice. You might do a tabletop practice, or maybe this is your shelter-in-place drill for the year or something like that. If you just kind of use it as an example, it will let you and your administrators walk through the idea. What would we do if? There are a lot of bomb threats in the state. I can't remember the number I saw that were reported to us, but the vast majority of them are Johnny trying to get out of his exam on Monday morning or whatever day it is. But enough of them are real that the schools are evacuated, and so it's a valuable tool. Same idea for chemical release. I won't do this one in quite as much detail, but same idea that you can do the same thing for a chemical release.
All the information that is in here comes from everybody who's familiar with the emergency response guide that's put out. All this information is directly from there. So when they get to the different points, you can pull up the different chemicals. It'll give you the MSDS. It'll give you all the information about the chemicals themselves.
So he's clicking anhydrous ammonia. This little blue number here will give you the emergency response guide information itself. But he's just picking a wind direction, a time of day, and a size of spill. And he's clicking draw. Same idea. The blue circle is the get the heck out circle. That's called the isolation distance, where first responders don't even go into that circle without gear. But the yellow, you could potentially shelter in place. So the way Keith has drawn this, the wind is going this way. The truck accident happened here on Business 90, and the school is in this position where they could potentially shelter in place. A couple of real quick stories. One was actually in this town. We did a tabletop exercise with, what do you call your hockey rink? Town Toyota Center. Town Toyota Center was mapped a few years ago, and we did this exercise for Town Toyota Center. So Town Toyota was here, the truck accident was here, and the police and fire people were in the room, and we turned to each of them and said, what would you do? We turned to the Town Toyota Center people, and they said, we will always, 100% of the time shelter in place. We know how to use our HVAC system. We bring people in if they're out smoking in the parking lot, we would bring them into the building and we would shelter in place, period. Did the same exercise in Medical Lake High School, and they said, we will never shelter in place. Our windows don't close tightly. We don't know how to use, we will always evacuate. But in the scenario that we did with them, it was 2:30 in the afternoon. They said, gosh, we would close school a half an hour early, we'd put kids on buses, and we'd evacuate. School number 3, this is the last story I'm going to tell on this one anyway. They did the same exercise, and they said we would walk. we would not shelter in place. We would take our kids and walk to a nearby elementary school, and we would walk, even though we're taking them into the plume, we would walk out of the plume to another school. And they had practiced that and did so in a drill. Okay, that's about what I wanted to do on the front end. Let's do just at least one other school. Do something small.
Oh, let's go.
Volunteer. Anybody would like to see their school?
Sure,
Thank you,
ask
Dave.
it.
Tenasket, all right. One I haven't been to. Thanks, Mike. Okay, so here's Tenasket. Okay, this is a good example. We mapped a number of schools on the same campus, which is what we normally do when they're all in the same place. The first responders want to see it all in one place rather than have individual sites. Okay, so first look at the tactical plan list to see how. Got an entry team and inner perimeters, that's good.
Let's check that.
Okay, there's no date on it, but I can tell from the icons on the black and white that it's pretty old. But same idea. Here's your perimeters. Here's your incident command post. So it was a custom done response plan to that school. Here's bus staging over here, for example. So I'm just trying to give you the flavor of what those look like. You know, a lot of your communities probably haven't changed that much, but you may run across one of these that is so old, or maybe something has changed in the school that it may just need to be redone, and we are happy to come do that with your folks. Okay, so he's going down, just giving you some examples of how the exterior pictures look like, and the interiors and so on. Here's one other thing, because you folks are mostly fiscal and business management. One other thing we should show you is utility shutoffs. So Keith is going to go up to the site level and he's going to show you the utility shutoffs, and what should be here would be utility shutoffs for the whole site. So okay, it lists them individually. Okay, water shutoff. Okay, so this one could be an example of a water shutoff for the whole site. I'll go down to one of the buildings and click utility there. Okay, so these should be the power shutoffs and the gas shutoffs and so on just for that building. So think earthquake, think other reasons why you might need to turn the power off, not just law enforcement situations. These are good ways to do it. Are any of your schools in the risk management pool? What do they call the one out of Mary Sue's?
Yeah, Washington Risk Management Pool.
Yeah, we don't use Washington Risk Management. We use Clear. Most of our schools use Clear Risk Solutions.
Used to be,
and Canfield. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, the Clear people know what this is, but the reason I asked from the other direction, that pool actually gave school districts a discount for following some of these things in RapidResponder, and part of their logic was loss control. Of sprinkler heads get knocked off, and if the principal knows how to turn off the water in the sprinkler riser shut off, they could potentially save water claims.
That.
Say
Oh gosh.
Is that when Jess was at?
How many years ago was it?
Well, Bruce has done a great job of communicating to Canfield that, by the way, this would be a great idea because it's being done on the other side of the state too.
Actually, it was just last week I had a conversation with Canfield. Whether they would bite on it, I don't know, but I did make that suggestion to them last week.
And I think this year it's up to 6% rebate on their permit.
In the other pool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to show you shutoffs just from that risk control thing. Two more things. The thing that falls out of compliance the fastest is contact information. Go ahead and click contacts over on the upper right-hand corner. So contact information is typically at the school level and at the school district level. This one, is that the whole school district? Is that site?
That's all correct. Yeah.
All of your schools are there. Okay, so that makes sense. Do those people still work there? Okay, that's good. That's good to see it. This is probably the easiest thing to fall out of compliance is to do it.
Oh, look at that! It is updated.
It is.
There you go. Okay, pictures and everything. Okay, also do emergency plans. 2008, those are getting a little long in the tooth, and they could potentially still be good. There's a button we can show you how to push that shows that you've reviewed them each year.
Oh.
And, but so that it's good that there are so many detailed plans in there, but it's maybe not so good that 2008 is the last time you looked at.
Definitely saw that.
Okay, but the next part of the training is going to show you how that can be fixed, and briefly I'll show you that. But that reminds me, Dave asked me to talk a little bit about what's required of school districts. By law, if the legislature funds the mapping of your school, you're required to give us the information. So that's how this information got here in the first place. We called you up when this school was built or when we first got funding, and we got the information. We came and visited, we took the pictures. Then there's a law that says you're supposed to keep it up at least annually. OSPI requires that to be done by October 15th of each year. So what that means is a little fuzzy, let's say. So if you have just one contact out of date, that sort of thing, I don't know if that would put you into any legal trouble, but that law is on the books that you keep the information current. If it's a new construction, remodeling, you tear one building down, you put up another, we will come and do the pictures again because we get funding for that. So we will come do it. The other things that are required are a certain number of drills each year. Keith might know the law off the top of his head.
3 evacuation fire, 3 lockdowns, 1 shelter in place, 1 of the school building's own choice based on a regional threat, and 1 training, 1 drill that we talk to people about. Don't create a new drill, but 1 drill where you use rapid responder in a drill. Like, for example, if we were doing a shelter in place because of a chemical release, bring the custodial staff down, have them bring up rapid responder, look at the directions for shutting off the HVAC system, and have them go back and see if that still makes sense. Something as simple, so you've done the shelter in place drill, but you've used rapid responder, which that's that whole application piece, which it makes a whole lot of sense.
So that law requires you to do the drills that he just mentioned. It's 1 per month and in those configurations. And it also requires that you keep a record of it. It does not say in so many words you keep that record in rapid responder, but why not? We give you an easy way to document them in rapid responder. I'll show you what it looks like here in the back end of the system. So I would estimate a good 50 or 60% of the schools in the state do report their drills into rapid responder, so we have kind of a statewide picture of who's complying and who's not. And then, okay, so that's enough about drills. I'll talk about that a little bit more on the back end of the system. But the plans are required to be reviewed. First of all, you're required to have a comprehensive school safety plan, I think is the words in the law. And then you're required to review that every year. That's in the statute. Again, it's not required that you click that button that proves that it's in rapid responder and up to date. But again, why not? Here's a tool here's an easy place for you to document it. It's a nice centralized place for you to have it. First responders can get to it if they need it. And it basically, the whole thing gives you a tool, a place to store this stuff, and so on.
And I think the assumption with, by and large, I'd say 90% of the school districts in the state is they think if they have the flip chart, everybody got a flip chart, that's your comprehensive plan, and that really doesn't fit the legal or FEMA or keep your behind out of court definition for a comprehensive plan. We don't want to talk about that today, but there's kind of 3 levels. There's the comprehensive plan, which risk management people love. There's the flip chart, which is a great teaching tool. And then now schools, we're seeing going to 1 or 2 page, breaking the page into 4 quarters with 3 main points for lockdown, 3 main points for evacuation, so that when you're on the run and you're a 3rd grade teacher and you're trying to herd 30 grade school kids down the hall to evacuate, you're not going to have time to look at a flip chart. You may have time to grab an ugly orange piece of paper off the wall and it says, okay, I'm supposed to go out to the play field. And substitute teachers, you got to think that's what they need to have also. We could talk hours about that.
Okay. Can I get just some feedback? Anybody see themselves using the program in their districts or the districts? It's nods. Okay. What we just did is most of the training. So if you feel like you could find a floor plan, you could use that explosive threat tool, you could do things. You might not need to go to Quincy for that first hour. We did it a little faster, and we would get into a little more detail, but that pretty much is navigation training. The second piece of the training is Easy Alert, and I would like to kind of go to that next just because it's kind of fun and break it up before we get into some more boring stuff. So let me talk about Easy Alert a little. Well, let's do the PowerPoint.
Well, I think we need to cover just one more point.
Please.
This always comes up also. These are great questions. And rather than lie to you, we like to tell stories from around the state because we get royalties on it? No, not really. Not a bad idea. You guys are business people. You would understand what But the question comes up, well, who's supposed to keep all this up to date? Because for every school site, there's going to be about 200, 250 photographs and about 200 or 250 points of data. That's a lot of stuff to keep up to date. Who keeps it up to date? Well, in the day and age that we live in, when you get pushback from building secretaries, we're too busy, we don't have time to do it, or building principals, a lot of times by default, somebody from the district office is either assigned that, one of those tasks to be assigned things, or, they volunteer to do it. The most successful, and it's a combination that we've seen around the state, multiple places, is where there's redundancy between district level responsibility. They're kind of the go-to people. They know the October 15th dates and how many lockdowns you're supposed to have and all that kind of stuff. And building level. And building level could be a combination, but it's got to have somebody with administrative oversight and office management. Remember, this is just a big database. Who understands databases really well? Office management people. They really do. There's got to be a redundancy. There's got to be backup. Break that down, kind of like it is an elephant, and you got to eat it one bite at a time with multiple people. Sometimes we've seen SROs take responsibility for it because they like it. Sometimes facilities people. And maybe there's staff members in the building that are on a safety team that say, I'm kind of a computer geek. Let me do this. I like this too. So
we've even had a couple of fire departments.
Yeah.
Somebody at the fire department has volunteered to be that person. I just did a Catholic school down in Clarkston, and they got some parents involved, and they didn't have a they didn't have a line-drawn floor plan for their school. They got some parents involved to just create a decent floor plan for them, help them renumber their buildings. So there's a lot of ways to skin this cat, but I like Keith's idea, some kind of redundancy. I understand a lot of you are small. It could be you, it could be the superintendent, might be the bus driver, it's the principal, everything else. We would, but even that worst case scenario where you just star school district, 10, 15 kids in the whole school district. The superintendent is part-time. I've trained him, and he does it all.
Well, I think of Reardon, but the transportation director takes responsibility.
There you go.
For this.
Yeah.
So there's an interest, but it's got to be a mutually agreed upon and redundant system.
Yeah. We'll work with you so do something that can be done. If it's just so overwhelming, we'll work with you to get you the help you need and to get to the training you need. Okay, Easy Alert is a new thing. We did some pilots last school year, and we used some of that grant money that OSPI was passing out for technological fixes. And the only pilot around here was Warden, but now it's free to school districts. It's built into and part of RapidResponder. So I'll just show you quickly what it is. So we've talked about all this. I just said some of that. This system is completely dependent on the internet. So if you have such terrible internet service, then never mind. This is completely internet-based. But it's like an app. So I call it a button here. Basically, you can put a button on a smartphone, on an iPad, on a desktop, just about any computer-based thing that's connected to the internet. Probably not a Kindle, but a couple, that sort of thing. So you can put this button on any kind of an internet-connected device. Even if this thing is wonderfully successful, we never ever think it will replace 911. We don't want folks to think by pushing the button that dispatch or anybody else knows that that you have pushed the button. While there are some capabilities of corresponding with first responders, it will never ever take the place of 911. This is just a picture of my tablet, my desktop, and my smartphone. So it looks like this. And it's just a little red R, and you can literally, it's like an app. So you just push the button and you're into it. This is what you get after you push the button. So this is an example of a person who just has one site and can either push alert or drill just by pushing that icon. The alert button now says incident rather than alert. As soon as that button is pushed, it shows up in Rapid Responders. So you might have noticed on that first screen we had open, there were some orange buttons. Those were real drills going on around the state. I didn't notice that any of them were easy alert drills, but they were all events that were really happening around the state at the beginning. So just by pushing the button, you have launched a drill or a real incident. So this particular one is a drill. The orange icon is for drills. The red one is for incidents. So anybody that has access to the site where the button was pushed can go into Rapid Responder and start to communicate with the button pusher. As soon as the button is pushed, people who have previously signed up to receive either an email or a text message can receive that. So if I'm the superintendent, perhaps I only want to be notified when real things happen. But maybe I also want to know when drills are going on. So it can be email, text, incidents, drills that can be brought down that finally as soon as something is initiated. This is built right into Rapid Responder, so it's anyway. Okay. So as soon as you push alert or drill, you get this screen, or one very much like this. You can say this is a bomb, this is a modified lockdown. You're not ordering the lockdown, you're reporting that this was your response. Okay, and you can, just like Gmail chat or something like that, you can say this is what really, in English, you can say this is what's going on, and then you can click post. And this is what it looks like in Rapid Responder. So here's the information that's coming from the button pusher. Here's the information that's coming from the first responders. So you can have communication back and forth with people in Rapid Responder. This is the power of it. The second person that pushes the button is immediately into the conversation. So instead of phone tag, I call the superintendent calls 911, somebody else calls the transportation supervisor. Everybody can get the information of what's going on pretty quickly. So as soon as the second person pushes the button, he or she gets caught up to everything that's come before and now can join in the conversation. Places that are using this have found that it's so valuable that they have to tell people, don't get on and say what's going on. It's like radio discipline for cops, that you don't want to get on the radio unless you've got something to say. Same idea here. You want to share a roster who the kids that were still on the bus at that point. Took a picture of that. Immediately, everybody else that was communicating in this conversation, the safety director, the transportation people, there were 5 or 6 or 7 people in on this use of the system. Everybody knew, this parent might be calling, my kid's late, and so on. They were able to use that information to report it to the state patrol. Anyway, that one picture just spoke a whole volume of information. But also think suspect vehicle, license plate, something's going on. Lots of things that you might have a picture of.
I think it also, Monroe had a kind of a suspicious character, intruder type person, wandering around their administrative grounds in their facility. Somebody took a picture of it, distributed it out so that everybody was able to see it right away.
Yeah, and they had another incident. Oh, go ahead.
No, I like stories. Go ahead.
Oh, we had one recently where one of the schools where I live is rolling this out to their district. And I had a meeting with them, and right after that, they had a death threat to a teacher in one of the math classes. This kid used a scientific calculator and said, "I'm going to kill you, Mrs. Jones," or whatever her name was. And so she saw that after class, called the SRO in, got on the system, took pictures of it, started an investigation in RapidResponder.
The other thing, we were fortunate enough 3 months ago, down at ESD 112 in Vancouver, to do the same presentation to their risk management group, the workers' comp folks. And I think the only time they grinned during the whole deal, because we were really funny, I thought. But the only time they grinned is when we said that this is protected from public disclosure. Then risk managers kind of go, oh, so what do you know about
Yeah, there's a specific statute that says information in RapidResponder is protected from public.
Can we just replace all of our
and put everything in here? The logic of it is that it's tactical in nature, and that it would be, and it hasn't been tested in the courts, but it absolutely, it's a very valuable thing. We have had the call from the Seattle Times saying, "Can I have such and such a piece of information out of the system?" We said no, quoted them the law, and they backed off. So it has some value to it.
The law hasn't been tested then?
Not in court.
So now what with all of the stuff that's happening out there, there's a growing interest on the part of ESDs and schools to explore those school districts that have a systematic student safety threat assessment program. Are you familiar with the Salem-Kaiser model or anything like that? About the possibility of including some of those reports or recommendations in here. I know that we've had this discussion only because the ESDs have brought that idea up, that this may be a place that we somehow utilize in terms of
and that would clearly meet the intent of the law, that it's tactical and it's a law enforcement record. So I mean, that would be an excellent example. We didn't answer your question?
Well, okay, so I'm clearly new to all of this. So this is statewide. You guys are monitoring statewide. So you have a large team watching this?
No. It's designed for first responders, so your local folks could be monitoring, and probably are not, frankly. This is new.
Probably not.
Probably are not logging in every day. We do have some places in the state where they literally, at the dispatch place, they log in every day and they are monitoring. But at this moment, it's going to be a little bit like having one telephone. If you like it and start to use it, then maybe they'll start monitoring. But at this moment, they're not. When we first thought of this, that was the only purpose of this, was to communicate with first responders. But this subsequent user thing has become valuable to school districts. They don't care if the first responders are looking at it. They would, in a more extreme version. But we're kind of rolling it out. So if you do it in your school district, then we might be shortly thereafter talking to the dispatch or the sheriff's office. Or
That's what I was wondering, because with so if you're in the area and you're monitoring other schools and facilities, and you're seeing all of the yellow that are drills, so you just are monitoring that because, oh great, they're doing one, and then if it's a real one, then that's when you start chiming in for your responses.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, and typically you're going to see, first thing that's going to happen is if you're a teacher, you're in school, and you hear the gunshots, you're going to be on the phone to 911.
Right.
And then, like in Clark County, where I'm from, they have it up and running all the time. So first they're dealing with the 911 calls, then they're jumping on RapidResponder get into the tactical plans and start dispatching fire, police, EMS. Okay, you go here, you go here, you do this. But the first thing is always the 911 call. Nobody's going to think gunshots, rapid responder. Hopefully not.
So,
Go ahead.
No, just a follow up to that is, so is it a unique thread that started for each one, or is like if the hospital's having something going on in the school district, will all those posts be on the same?
No, the way you said it first is right. It's a unique thread for that event, for that, and it's site based. So it's. We'll give you an example here in a little bit, but the first way you said it is the way it works. And if two people push drill at the same incident, it's a single incident. If one person pushes drill and one person pushes incident, then you've got two events. You have to choose between them. And there's some other scenarios that we need to clean this up a little bit. But right now, it's an event-based conversation.
Is there like a screen that shows all the incidents currently? Like, so I know if you've already started an incident, I can jump on it?
Well, a good example of that is ESD 105 in Yakima and their safety co-op.
Yeah, we don't like them.
I know. But they have
they're yak.
They have rapid response, or they have what they call a school safety operations center that they're creating. They have a monitor with rapid responder going all the time with all of the schools in their ESD region. So what you're asking is, if a red flag showed up, then someone would be able to see, oh, West Valley's got something going on, or maybe Wapato's got a drill going. But they would be able to monitor that and then go into easy alert.
Well, I'm just thinking of like the superintendent or the principal or something in the room makes the 911 call, logs on to rapid responder, and there's other events going on. I just want to make sure that I'm not having to weed through 200 other events to get to my communications, or that I know them either. Do I need to start a new one? That you know what I mean?
I'll show you what it looks like on the button in just a minute. In fact, I've got a slide coming up here. In fact, I'll go to it now. This is what it looks like if I'm a district level user. So I've got a list of the schools to which I have access, and then if there's something going on, then there's an icon that says drill or alert, and then I click that school and then push the button. If there's multiple things, there's multiple. Now, if it's a multiple, let's say it's neighborhood police activity, and you've locked down 3 schools or something like that. That is 3 different events at this moment. But you do with the button, you get that, and I'll show you.
And so I, as a school, wouldn't have like the other facilities in the area. I would only have my facilities on the screen.
Normally, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. And I'm just going to make one small point back here, and then we're going to show it to you live. So you can also push the button that says, here's my lat long report position. So again, another real example in a drill in Monroe School District, the teacher had a button and she evacuated her kids to a certain area, took a picture of her students and pushed the lat long button and said, here I am. So now everybody knew she's, this is all 15 of her kids and they are at this exact location and it's documented. This 47.077 and so on doesn't mean anything, but what you do is you click on this link and then wherever your Google Maps or whatever your default map program is, it shows you where you are. Okay, we talked about that. And the rapid responder users can also share photos with you. So now again, if they've got suspect vehicle or whatever, they can push photos out to the button users as well. There's my RCW for the statutory exemption. And this is the sign-up sheet of how we would get you started if you wanted to get going. And that's my contact information. Business cards back on the table. And now we're going to show it to you live.
And I think also, there's a, you need to log.
Oh, you do that and I'll do this. You do that part and I'll do this part.
I know, you need to punch in your code.
Oh, thank you.
There's some really advanced technology out there that goes on your smartphones. And they do things like locking doors, accessing cameras, really, really advanced stuff. By design, this is what it is. It's not low tech, but it's very logical. Very logical for us to use. That's why I think that you have an incident button and you get a drill button. Why drill button? Muscle memory. If we get teachers and principals starting their drills using the drill button, when an incident occurs, doesn't it make sense that hopefully they would remember, oh, now I'm going to create an incident. So there's some logic to it without the bells and whistles of turning cameras on or tying your shoes or whatever else these other technologies do. Yes, sir.
When you hit the button, does it require you to log in, or are you already logged in?
You're already logged in.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes and no. You're not logged into the full version of RapidResponder, but just pushing the button, you're into Easy Alert and you're in that conversation. You don't have to remember username and password.
Okay, that's what we're curious.
Yeah, the actual RapidResponder, you would have to log in and communicate with them.
The other benefit of the alert button, the drill button on your phone is if they initiate a lockdown practice drill in a building and they use the alert button, then it's already taken that first step of recording it as a drill inside the big RapidResponder stuff. So then they don't have to go in and enter a second time. They can go in and fill in all the additional details and stuff.
Okay, so for the monitoring question about what it looks like in RapidResponder, so if dispatch, for example, was monitoring, they would log into RapidResponder, they would click this little button right up here that says remain logged in, and as long as they stay at this screen, they won't get logged out, they'll just be there ready to receive an alert. They can also sign up for the text messages and that sort of thing. So right now in the state, all of these drills are going on, and it looks like there's more down here. But I can tell that this one right here is a Easy Alert button. So Keith, if you click on that one, before you click that button, Keith, if you wouldn't mind in RapidResponder, go ahead and click on what's going on in Monroe School District right now. That second bottom one.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, so this is real. It's a drill. But here's go down to the bottom. We'll see what started it. Okay, so they initiated. Jana Pope initiated the drill. Somebody joined. Okay, here's Jeff. He's the safety manager. What type of drill? She pushed the button for fire, internal, and evacuation. Jeff just said thank you. We'll let you know if there's anything out of the ordinary. So they're just drilling, but they have documented their drill and they've used RapidResponders. Oh, here's some more. Yeah, so they're still learning it. Oh, do the lat long. Okay, so here's the, she reported her position. You do participants, Keith, up above there a little bit. So because I joined in, when Keith pushed the button, there's me. There's Jana, there's Jeff. These are all the people that are communicating. Here's the lat long that Jana clicked the button, so go ahead and click that. We'll see where she's at.
Wow, that's a little big brother.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of that, though, is if you have teachers and kids spread out, they push that button. That is a great tool for
Can I get this
dispatch
on my people on my team here?
It doesn't go to Lopez Island.
Trisha is where?
Careful what
The
you
Bahamas.
wish. Careful what you wish for.
Okay, so that's how that works in real life. Now Keith is going to push a button. We set up a couple of Moses Lake School District buttons just to show you how it works.
I'm going to hit Frontier Middle School.
All right. So same idea. Well, you're pushing. I'll monitor.
And my choices, I'm going to call it an intruder. And we're going to go to modified lockdown.
The drill, Keith?
Yep.
So the second he pushed that button, I got an email and I also received a text message saying that there was a drill at that particular school.
Okay. And in RapidResponder, it's right here, drill at Frontier Middle School, Moses Lake. Okay, so if someone was monitoring, if one of you all were monitoring and you had access to this school, you could go in RapidResponder and join in the conversation and get the information.
So is Mark Johnson still with Moses Lake, or is he retired?
He retired.
He did, okay. He and I went through principals training together, and so if he was in Orlando, which I can imagine Mark would be in Orlando.
He's been going a lot since he's retired.
Yeah, so he would get that notification via text and email that there was a drill at Frontier while he's in Orlando with his feet propped up and his friend Mai Tai.
And that's a good point. The button is you. You know, whether you're in Florida or anyplace else, the button is you. So you can converse and push the button whether you're on site or not. It still represents you, and it puts your name and your contact information and that sort of thing up. Here's an example of. Sorry, I'm doing two things at once here. I'm doing nothing at the moment.
So there were all those years that we tried to figure out a way to convince school folks to use this 24/7, use RapidResponder 24/7. Well, it's not a reality. You know, that's why we talk about nowadays the key people, the first responders that are going to access RapidResponder are the 911 people. And you talk to the police officers, when they're going lights and siren, you know, Bob, I'll bet, never looked at his, tried to bring up RapidResponder when you were responding to an incident.
Nope.
No, he wouldn't admit it anyway. Not in moment. You know, but the dispatchers can be looking at that. The Everett dispatchers, Yakima dispatchers, Clark County dispatchers, they're looking at that and they're telling those units, we need you to roadblock here, we need you to roadblock here. So that in effect is going to save you all time, because they're not going to have to go to a command post first and make a decision. Now they can respond directly to that. So it's kind of like we've kind of got it now, I think.
Okay, so what I have on the screen now is another button. I installed it on this computer before we get started here, and you can see what it looks like to the button user. There's already a drill going on at Frontier Middle School. So I can push drill, and now I'm joining in the conversation. It looks like Bob has taken a picture. And so on, so I can get my hands on that picture. He hasn't learned how his camera works yet to turn it to the right side. Neither have I. Okay.
The problem's down there.
So you get the idea, I hope. Do we have other Grant County people besides the Moses Lake lady? Other Grant County? Okay. The only reason I ask, because Warden was one of our pilots, we have had conversations with the Grant County dispatch agency. It's called MACCOM. And they have a particular challenge. Their dispatchers do not all have access to the internet while they're at their desk. But they're talking about for whatever reason their CAD system, what they're doing. It sounds silly, but they're kind of busy with what they do for a living. But anyway, we've had conversations with them about having a dedicated computer that they could go to in the event. You know, they could have it turned on and monitoring it, and they could use it. Because Warden was one of our pilots, we haven't been back there in the last 6 months to see. But if you get started, or somebody else in Grant County gets started, that'll give us momentum to have them monitor. Okay. Again, this is most of what the training is. So if you're pursuing this, you may want to come to the training in Quincy and get more information. Or you can just contact me and I can set you up with buttons and access and training materials and all that. But that's how simple it is. So I don't think you need to, let's say you wanted to have one person at each building have one of these buttons or give it to your bus drivers. I don't think all those people have to come. We think it's easy enough to use. Once setting it up takes a little training. But once you've got it, we think the button is easy enough to use that you can do it 10 minutes or train somebody to use it.
Stephanie's got it.
Go.
Okay, good. Look, so Stephanie locked on and
Brown noser.
Okay, any other questions about Easy Alert?
Do you have any like false alarms?
There was a little bit of worry about that, and I don't think we've had any, the equivalent of a butt dial sort of thing yet.
That would be.
I don't think we have had one yet.
Because sometimes our fire alarms go off, and it's not really a fire alarm.
And that's kind of been our decision is, if somebody pulls a fire alarm, it's not really a fire, you're inconvenienced, and you say never mind. That's kind of our philosophy on this too. We would rather have people accidentally push it or use it for drills or whatever, and we'll just say never mind. There is a way to delete them. We'll get this one out of the Moses Lake School District. Basically, this is reporting a drill in the rapid responder system.
Because I really like how this could be. I mean, this is actually just real time.
Yes.
So if there is a shooter in your elementary school cafeteria, somebody could press that and say that's where they are.
And it's also silent. If you're what happens when people call 911 is the dispatcher keeps the person that has the best information on the line and kicks everybody else off. So they're getting one piece of information from one person, preferably the best person, but not always. But now everybody else that's got this button can be communicating. Yeah, everybody can be communicating with each other.
Well, that's what I think I like about this so much is, well, I was in a scenario once where there was a house near the school where there was a major stabbing. Like a kid had knifed up his family. And the police had reported it all, but nobody let the school know until like hours later. And literally they were 2 blocks from the incident and the kid was on the loose after it. So there was no way to communicate. And that's what I think about this thing is if you have it and something nearby can communicate, you can jump on and realize what's going on. I mean, it just be really powerful. It's one of these things that you want to sign up for now and not when the problem happens.
Yes. Right. And does this go to like all law enforcement? I mean, we have boatloads of boatloads of border patrol. Right. and Homeland Security.
She's right.
Yeah,
our tax dollars at work.
Our borders are threatened up there.
We don't want those Canadians coming in.
You're going to like this, I think. I have been to Oroville at least twice over the last few years, and both times I trained Border Patrol people and gave them access to RapidResponder. Now, the last time might have been 2 years ago. They might have turned over and or they might not remember their username and password. But that's a very good example of how flexible this is.
I don't mean to be too funny about that because actually, in a way, it's really quite comforting.
Yeah,
right.
To know that there's just all of those people.
Absolutely.
I mean, they'll just.
Yeah, it's an excellent example about how flexible this is. But it's also an example of how easy it is for it to fall out of use. I literally trained. The first time I was there, I'm going to say it was 4 years ago, I trained the chief, I can't remember what they called the head guy.
Was it Dick Graham?
That name
they have a new one now.
The name of the guy that I was here 2 years ago is kind of Moser.
Colo.
Yes, that's who I gave access to
My
last
neighbor.
time I was there. Cool.
I also live in Border Patrol neighborhood.
Okay, well give them all my business card and we'll sign them all up. But it really is an excellent example of how flexible this is. We can give access to the Border Patrol, we have given it to the Sheriff's Office and the Oroville PD and so on, but it's only as good as they pay attention to it. And we hope that the button will encourage people to trust it and use it more often. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing too, is using it, you can't be afraid to use it. It's for, from a risk management standpoint, you get a kid that slips and falls by a water fountain, or they're out on the playground and falls off the jungle gym, if they even have those anymore, then go out there, snap a picture of it, everything. It's all documented in RapidResponder. So you can document, it doesn't have to just be for an active shooter, it can be for anything. And then again, it's documented with pictures and everything else.
So is there a way, you said that 2 separate entities have 2 different conversations. Is there a way, I'm thinking about an incident that we had a specific drill for where we included, we had simulated a serious bus accident, had helicopters, police, we combined everybody. And what we found our largest problem was the communication between the hospital and the school. So is there a way, since we're 2 separate entities, to ever join in on the same conversation?
Yes. Yes, the way it's designed right now, it's school, police, fire, emergency management, dispatch. The hospital would not normally be considered a responder agency, so they wouldn't at this moment in time be part of that conversation. But all those other folks would.
Okay.
And we could set it up. We could set it up for a hospital as well.
Because that's what we were simulating was we had deaths, we had amputations, mass casualties, and that was our biggest issue.
And that's where you could send a liaison to the hospital that had it on their phone and be that liaison, go to the hospital, get updates, communicate back.
There are two ways we could do it. One would be to make the hospital a responder agency, and then they could play just like the other folks would. Or we could just put them in the network, give them a button, or give them access to RapidResponder for schools or for whatever is in the neighborhood.
Actually, you answered that because we did send liaison down there, but we didn't have this.
Yeah, then you're not playing again like they were saying phone tag. It's just you just okay, got an update. We got this going on. And
Right, because they might put it on diversion, and then you could update that in the RapidResponder. It'd be pretty cool.
So one of the conversations that has occurred multiple times as we've introduced this to district administrators is two things. Principals ask, can we be notified of all of the incidents in the district? The answer is yes, by just checking a box, so that if on your phone, when we enter your name into Easy Alert, we check a box, and then all of the other schools, if they have incidents, all of the administrators or whoever would be notified. And then they can opt out of, well, we don't want to be notified of other drills, because otherwise it'd be crazy. So you can fine tune it that way. And that way, the question was, well, if another school goes into a lockdown, we want to know that. You know, so that's one of the characteristics, the key characteristics of this is throughout a district is being able to be notified that way.
So we only have about 10 minutes left, so I'm not going to do a very good job on the back end of the system. But first I wanted to just show you that the back end exists. So basically we're accessing the same information from two different angles. So what we had up first, I call the front end, it's formerly called the emergency response interface. So that's what it's for, is to use in an emergency. The back end is called the administrative interface. The only difference is that it's prodadmin.rapidresponder.com instead of prod.rapidresponder.com. So it's the same. It's a way of accessing the same information. Once again, I have access to the whole school, the whole state, but Moses Lake School District, for example, would have district and then all of the buildings down the tree, so to speak. And the tree, yeah, please do that, Keith, thank you. The tree matches up what's on the front end. So if you're making changes to the back end of the system, you have to understand the tree structure just like you do on the front end. So if you're making a change that affects the whole site, you go to the site level and so on. And many of you, this doesn't matter because you just have one site within your district. But if you have multiple, then things that you do here, generally speaking, populate down to all the schools. So if you have access up here, you can see everything down below and so on. So a couple things I want to point out. Go up to the district level. Personnel. This is how easy it is to give. Well, here's the current people who have access. So you'll want to go in and the first time and just see if this is up to date. I'll get myself and Keith and Bob out of here when we're done, but I just did that for our drill. But go ahead and click the add button. This is how you add someone into the system. You just the required fields and email address, click save, and once you know how to do this, you can give additional people access, and likewise for the easy alert button and so on. Okay, go all the way back and use the X button there. Wanted to point you up to the very upper right hand corner where it says help. Of these, you don't care about this one at this point. This one is probably valuable. This is kind of what, yeah, don't click on it right now. But that's sort of what the front end looks like, a real quick and easy 1 or 2 page, how to use the front end. This one is 181 pages the last time I looked. It's ridiculously detailed, but put it on your hard drive, and if you can't remember how to upload a floor plan, put it on a PDF, search for floor plan, and then you can find the step-by-step instructions on how to do it. So it's not a real user-friendly, but it's everything is there. But this one I wanted to show you is video tutorials. So this is, look at these. These are 2 minutes and 54 seconds long, 2 minutes and 44 seconds long. How to upload an emergency plan, how to report a drill. So if that's your only responsibility is reporting drills, that's all you need to do is be able to get logged in, get back here, and watch this 2 minute and 42 second video, and you've got it. Then the longer ones, RapidResponder iPad app, I haven't even talked about that, but you could learn about that. Some changes that were made a few months ago, you could look at that. And then down here, this ERI and administrative interface, those are pretty much the training, the full training in video, watch it later kind of format. And last but not least, on the back end here, there's one more thing. It's go help one more time, please. Webinar sign up. So this is one that's done by the company, not by WASPIC. So the second and fourth Thursday of the month, they do navigation training and admin training by the company. And that's a webinar-based thing, so when you log into that one, you're logging in as yourself, so they know you're there, and there's some opportunity for some give and take there. And they take an hour and a half to do navigation. So you might be in the same training class with some people from New York or some other place, but they can answer personalized questions and deal with it. Okay, I left 7 or 8 minutes for questions or comments, discussion. Yes, sir.
Under the personnel, with the access you gave us, does that mean we can add individuals? Like I could add my superintendent?
Yes, for the school districts I did. The ESD people I just gave you access, but the school district people I gave admin access.
Okay.
Yes. Go ahead and go.
Will it send an automatic email for like users?
Yes, that's exactly what it does. When you create a user, it sends that same email out that you got.
And they're right. Mine, I had actually gotten like the first email into my regular mail folder, then the follow-up one with all my like information on how to log in. That went into my like junk mail clutter folder or whatever, and I had to go. And actually, this was before we did different setups. I had to go like retrieve it. So if you're gonna send it to someone, that's what they did for me. Just alert them to watch their junk mailbox for it too.
And so those do get generated by a computer, and that's why that happens. We have even had cases where we had to talk to the IT people and whitelist it for your whole district, so that has happened. I bet you it happened this time because there's so many different places. The guy in the back of the room, please. Where are you from? Could we use you as an example here?
Sure. Olmec.
Olmec? Okay, Okanagan County. Probably been 3 years since we've been up in your school district per se. Yeah, Okanagan County, Olmec, school district.
Yeah, that was when we made the tour. Remember that? Across.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We have people in
that was 3 or 4 years ago. You were there, Olmec School District, and personnel. Okay, so here's Scott. So I just set you up. I gave you admin and view tactical. And here's the date that I did it. I wanted to show you this validate button. So assuming some of you are doing this, this is a good place to start. Who has access? Do these people still work for us? If they do, go ahead and click validate. And that'll put a timestamp on it, and then that will show on the front end if you're a contact for the district. So that's a good place to start, is just to validate the people that are already there, and then add new people in as appropriate. And then use Scott again for an example. Click on his name. Click on contact data. If you are someone who would be contacted in an emergency, you click that little button right there, put the rest of your phone numbers in, and then that shows up on the front end of the system. That's how you update contacts for your own people. And then here's your notification for incidents and easy alerts if you go that far.
Contacts.
I don't know if you want to be a contact or not. Should we?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead and say.
Contacts.
Did you say?
Yeah, he did say yes.
Okay, but did you say?
I had said yes.
Okay.
But we'll just say it.
Okay.
The word out there is that contacts are for if you want to be notified or called at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Or some sort of a problem. So,
Okay, go ahead and close that, and I'll do one more thing. The reporting of drills we talked about as being something that Rapid Responder is good for. That is done at the site level. You can't, when you do, what do you call the thing where for the earthquake? The great shakeout. You can't push one button at the district level and say everybody did shakeout. You have to do one school at a time. But he's at OMAC Middle School and High School. Clicks events. Here's thing. Okay, they've been using it. So here's earthquake drills. So they're already reporting their drills. That's another round.
So on top of that.
Okay, go ahead and do the ad. So you can do this in advance. You can do it after the fact. So you can just start documenting drills that you know you did earlier this school year. You could go in and enter them all in. These are the only required fields right here. You know, the rest of the form is interesting and valuable. But this is where I usually talk about the protection from public disclosure. Be honest. You know, teacher forgot her keys. You know, whatever goes wrong in the drill, that's why you do drills, for stuff to go wrong so you learn from it. And the next drill you document, hey, we got it this time. You know, whatever. And go up to the very top. There's even a place to load documents. So something goes bad enough in a drill that you send a memo to the staff and say, hey, next time we're going to do the next drill, we're going to make sure we take care of blah, blah, blah. Put a copy of that document in Rapid Responder. Think of the record you've got now for protection when, knock on wood, when the real thing happens, you've got a track record of all the things you did to prepare for that kind of an incident, documented in a, I don't know, a good place. Okay. That is our time. Please call me. My cell phone number is on the car. I travel a lot, but I return calls within a day. I return emails. We'll come to you. We're very, very flexible on getting help to you however we can.
Any other questions before we? Oh,
I didn't know this service is free.
Yes, paid for by your tax dollars.
So it's technically not quite free.
Yeah.
You don't have to write a check right now.
Yeah. Well, and this is what we've been talking about this crisis co-op from the ESD, and our biggest hold-up has been it's going to cost money. I mean, to the districts who become members of it. And the problem is it's almost like an insurance policy. This is what I keep trying to tell everybody who I talk to in the ESD about it is you'll pay for it, you'll have it, but you won't really even know it's there until all of a sudden you need it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I would have paid a ton more for that. The hard part is convincing people to keep up with it, to pay it, to do all that stuff when there's nothing happening. And that's the problem with things like this. And the reason why I really wanted to bring these folks in was because this is free and it's really user friendly. And it's about ownership. Somebody at the school district just needs to own it. And that's what we all fall and run into, right? But the problem is when the problem happens, that the school shooter or the fire or whatever else happens, I mean, I can tell you, hindsight being what it is, your community will find out that nobody did this, and you had access to it, and how's that going to go over? So this is what we've been really going through with this crisis prevention co-op, or this crisis response co-op, is it's trying to keep it in the forefront of people's minds, and it's so hard when we're so busy. So I really appreciate the gentleman coming here and talking through it, and definitely I've played with it a lot, and I found it really intuitive and user-friendly. If there's no other questions, I'll let these guys go, and we can grab a quick break, and then Sally and I have a few housekeeping things, and we'll let you all roll.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.